Chapter 21 Storm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gulong, but the sounds of swallowing saliva kept coming and going. Can't hold it back anymore. Elder Zhang's scalp was numb at this moment, and he was staring at Chu Xun. His mind was filled with disbelief and shock. The huge slap in the back mountain some time ago was filled with desolate power, which made him uneasy. He always felt that someone was on top of him. When he came to Donglin's sect, he never expected that he was from his own family. The white-haired old man, Xiao Rongyu, the two of them were also stunned. Immediately came the ecstasy, instant kill, just shoot him to death. The powerful strength displayed by Chu Xun completely amazed the two of them. Long before, they had expected that the latter would rise rapidly, but they did not expect that it would be so fast. He had reached such a level of cultivation in just a few days after breaking through the human emperor realm. As for Xiao Rongyu, she looked at him with even more fascination. Even though Chu Xun was no longer young at this time, her eyes still reflected the young man in green shirt and sword, with unparalleled grace. The aura that had risen in the forbidden area of Donglin's sect gradually became restrained. He was obviously very satisfied with the outcome of this battle. Chu Xun's ability to kill the powerful enemy with a snap of his fingers completely shocked him and also gave Donglin sect a surprise. As for the bottom, many elders, disciple, handyman, everyone was shocked. Earlier, when the red-haired old man launched an army to investigate the crime, he stormed into the Donglin sect alone. He was so domineering. Ordinary people were no match for him. Even the two human emperors did not stop him. He never imagined that it would end like this. There was a disciple who had just entered the sect for a short time. Unparalleled arrogance appeared on his face. He even raised his chin slightly and nodded, "Yeah. As expected of the sect I have chosen, it is so powerful." Some disciples rolled their eyes, thinking that this is nonsense, but when they turned around and could not hide their pride, they snorted. Donglin sect has a profound foundation, and there are strong people in large numbers. Even the elder of Xianxia Pavilion is so powerful. It seems that he has a wise eye. I, who know pearls, have no choice. Horrible. Terrible. This is too strong. There were also spies from other sects in the Donglin sect. They were all frightened at this time, and they even expected in their hearts that there would be a terrifying wave in the eastern territory. Chu Xun broke through the knot in his heart and entered the realm of the human emperor. Immortal sect Xiao Huangqiao fell to Donglin Holy Land. Both, no matter which one it is enough to cause huge waves and instantly become the biggest topic in the eastern territory. It is a hot topic, not to mention that the two come from the same place. Both them and people with scheming intentions have predicted that turmoil will break out. Tianji sect, the elder in charge of the intelligence trembled, his pupils suddenly shrank. He stared in the direction of the Holy Land to the east, and quickly summoned several human emperor realm experts from the Tianji sect. Everyone. As expected. The identity of the mysterious human emperor from Donglin sect has been revealed. It is Chu Xun who has been in the binding Sutra Pavilion for 60 years. A Taoist priest in blue and white robes frowned slightly and said, "As early as when the fat and thin venerable broke into the Sutra Pavilion, I had a guess. Although it was unexpected, it was not surprising. In the final analysis, it was 60 years of neglect and missed the most important moment of practice. It's a good time, just pay attention and don't take it too seriously." The elder in charge of the intelligence glanced at it and said calmly, "The news we just found out is that Xiao Huangqiao from the Xiandao sect broke into the Donglin Holy Land and galloped straight to the Sutra Pavilion. He was later killed by Chu Xun with a palm." There was silence in the hall. Obviously, they haven't recovered from the huge amount of information. Xiao Huangqiao breaks into Donglin sect. He was forced to leave the Sutra Pavilion to inquire, being killed again. Xiao Huangqiao is a strong man in the fifth realm of the human emperor. Looking at the eastern region, he is among the top ranks. Except for a few leaders of various forces, he is already the strongest man. However, it is still shocking to be killed so easily. What happened? Several powerful men were calm and focused. But don't worry too much. Chu Xun's own cultivation should not be strong. What he used was a terrible palm technique. The power of desolation can swallow up people's energy. Zhao Huangqiao just ate a big meal without knowing the details. Fortunately, he was easily killed, and this palm skill should have started as a saint, so Chu Xun must not have recovered to a frightening level. The elder in charge of intelligence said again. The people in the hall let out a long sigh. Only then did he feel relieved. There is a big difference between killing casually and using powerful secret techniques to kill. One is that the latter is very strong, one is the ultimate palm of the latter. Furthermore, Zhao Huangqiao's death also revealed a secret. Donglin Holy Land is too weak. The elder in charge of intelligence narrowed his eyes and said. There had been rumors about Donglin Holy Land being weak a long time ago. This is known to all major forces. Yes, it's just that it hasn't been proven yet. But the younger generation in the eastern region don't know this. In their eyes, the Eastern Holy Land is still that ancient and huge force. It has stood tall for 3,000 years and has been passed down from generation to generation. A strong man in the fifth realm of human sovereign is naturally not a weak one. Chu Xun, who may have broken into Donglin Holy Land and forced him to show up, would be too unexpected. It also exposed the weakness of Donglin Holy Land from the side, that there are 5 human emperors in Donglin Holy Land. One of them is in the forbidden area and has no time to go out. The other one is also the top strong man in Donglin Holy Land. The recent rumors are that he is on the verge of death, and now it seems that it has come true. Donglin Holy Land is very weak. At least, it has been through the ages. When you are at your weakest, the elder in charge of intelligence narrowed his eyes slightly. He knew that he could deduce that other forces could also see that if Donglin Holy Land really lacked top-notch combat power, it would be in great danger. Xianxia Sect, this news was also received, and guessed it to this point. The elder in charge of the intelligence curled his lips and said indifferently, compared with whether Donglin Holy Land is weak, I am more curious about whose sword intention the river belongs to. There is a majestic sword river in Donglinzong. It is filled with strong sword intent. Earlier they thought it was Chu Xun, and now it seems no. First of all, when the day sword intent erupted, he was only at the human emperor realm and had just entered it. Chu Xun could clearly see from this battle that he had already escaped to the human emperor realm but had not been exposed for a long time. Furthermore, Chu Xun's inheritance is devoted to boxing. There may not be time to ponder the sword intention of Day again. Think about it. Donglin Sect may also have a human emperor. It doesn't matter who got his Day sword intent. Chu Xun killed the elders of the immortal Dao sect with one palm. With the faces of those people, how could they just give up and wait to see the good show? Furthermore, even if the immortal Dao sect does not have a head-on confrontation with Donglin Holy Land, isn't there still a Zhenwu sect? Don't forget, the Zhenwu great sage came out of the Zhenwu sect back then. Now Chu Xuan has broken the knot and escaped into the world. In the imperial realm, aren't Zhenwu Zong panicking? If they are dog eat dog, they won't be able to trouble us. The strong men of Xianxia sect are happy and at ease. Let them fight. The more lively the fight, the better. It has nothing to do with them anyway. Chapter 22 The Ecstatic Donglin Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Master, in front of the Sutra Library, Xianxia stared blankly. To be honest, when he stepped forward, he had prepared for the worst. Who would have thought that it would end like this? It's okay, it's just a small matter. I have something to say to your uncles. You can go down first. Chu Xun's eyes were gentle and peaceful, looking at the excited white-haired old man and elder Jiang with a smile. Oh, Jiang retreated silently, the depression and low breath on his body. It took only a few breaths to recover as usual. On the contrary, his eyes were filled with brilliance. Muttered, isn't all this reasonable? Thinking of the master's unpredictable means, the life simulation is simply a miracle. Now he just killed a human emperor. What's the fuss? Elder Chu, the white-haired old man was named Wang He, and he was also one of the powerful people in the human emperor realm of the Donglin sect. He was so excited that he was nervous. When he stepped forward, he showed an incredible look and said, Elder Chu, what is your cultivation? The 5th level of the human emperor. Chu Xun said calmly. Wow, Although they saw Chu Xun's realm when he just made a move, the strong sense of happiness when they confirmed it in person almost made them dizzy. The fifth level of the human emperor, the fifth level of the human emperor, the fifth level of the human emperor is not scary. What is scary is how long has Elder Chu been in the realm. If I remember correctly, it was still a few months ago. He entered the fifth level of the human emperor in less than half a year. This speed, it's too evil. Elder Zhang's turbid eyes were also full of amazement, and more of it was relief. This felt incredible or even weird on others, but it seemed reasonable on Chu Xun, and everything was so natural. 60 years of accumulation exploded in one day. It seems not surprising to break through several realms in a row. Xiao Rongyu also opened her red lips and said, "Congratulations, Elder Chu." Chu Xun nodded kindly. The white-haired old man Wang he frowned again and said, "It is certainly a gratifying thing for Elder Chu to break through, but the Xiandao sect will definitely not let it go." Elder Jiang also frowned slightly. After killing an elder of the Xiandao sect, the other party must be unkind. Unfortunately, the Donglin Holy Land was too weak at this time and could not even take out a top master of the human emperor. Xiao Rongyu pursed his lips and sneered, "Hee, if you don't let it go, I want to see which insignificant person dares to come to the Donglin sect to die." A woman with a dagger, but full of sharpness, a red robe fluttered, and his eyebrows revealed domineering and protectiveness. Chu Xun's heart didn't warm up a bit. It was a good thing to meet such a protective leader. He didn't care about the revenge of Xiandao sect. Ordinary people coming here would just die. This is Donglin sect. It has been passed down for thousands of years, the top force in the eastern region. Besides, that day, Chu Xun broke through his cultivation and escaped into the human emperor realm. At the moment when his soul ascended, he overlooked the continuous formations of Donglin Holy Land. Even a saint would be defeated by that terrible killing formation, and breaking in would be a dead end for anyone below the saint. As for the saint's action, Chu Xun didn't believe it. In the eyes of the saint, it was just a fight between the juniors. It was a common thing. Even Xiandao sect didn't dare to kill with all its strength. After all, there were 6 major holy lands in the eastern region. The fight between the two sides was just a free advantage for other holy lands. Besides, although Donglin Holy Land was weak, it might not be without saints. Even if that saint was sleeping, it really came to the necessary moment. Enough to turn the world around, reverse everything. These are the confidence. Wang He, Elder Jiang, the two also understood the meaning of the headmaster, and nodded gently. "That's easy. I will go and order the disciples in the sect. If there is nothing to do in the near future, there is no need to go out of the sect." As the few people left, Chu Xun also returned to the Sutra Library. He just stood in front of the window and stared at the back of the headmaster leaving, revealing a strange look. Why did he feel that the headmaster looked at him with an ambiguous look in his eyes, and there was a bit of confusion? He thought about it. He didn't figure it out. He shook his head. He continued to pick up the scriptures. He studied slowly. What he said outside just now was not an exaggeration. Even if the Donglin Holy Land is weak, it is still a lean camel that is bigger than a horse. Give him a certain amount of time. As his cultivation continues to grow, he may not need to rely on others. Besides, the first simulation of the life simulator did not encounter a crisis in the East region, so there is no need to think about it. After calming down, immerse yourself in the world of books. Soon, I ignored everything, as if it was just a trivial matter. Little did I know, East region. At this time, a huge uproar was set off in Xiandao sect. Boom! With the shattering of Elder Zhao's natal card and the news from Donglin sect, a huge storm was set off. The disciples of Xiandao sect were furious and all showed their anger. "It's too much. It's fine to rob and plunder the disciples in the sect." Elder Zhao went to seek justice. He was killed. "This Donglin sect is extremely arrogant. He really thinks that my Xiandao sect can't do anything to him." For a while, everyone was indignant. The disciples of Xiandao sect were all sharpening their knives. They wanted to kill him directly. Hateful. Infuriating. The emperor of Xiandao sect was also furious. Compared with the impulsive disciples, they were much calmer. Standing in the hall, his eyes were grim and he said coldly, "Donglin Holy Land is too arrogant. Not to mention that Donglin sect is weak at this time, even the peak would not dare to do this to us." "Master. You died miserably. Master, your disciple is useless and can't avenge you. Zhao Huangchao's disciples cried with snot and tears. I don't know how much of it is true and how much is acting, but it is certain that they are heartbroken. The most important thing for cultivation is the backer. Now that the backer is gone, everything in the future must be done by oneself. How can I not be heartbroken? Junior brother Lu, Donglin Sect dared to kill my junior brother Zhao, and I will never let it go. Don't worry, Uncle Master will avenge you. There was an elder with anger in his eyes, trying his best to suppress the flames in his heart. The only reason he didn't explode was that he was discussing what kind of attitude to come to Donglin Sect, Jiang family. When the news reached Xianxia, the calm and steady head of the Jiang family suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, I knew that Elder Chu would be a late bloomer. This time, he made those self-proclaimed upright people in the Xiandao sect suffer a setback. It's so cool. Some elders were ashamed, they thought, isn't this just attracting hatred? An elder in the human emperor realm of the Xiandao sect just died. I was feeling sad. You are laughing. If the Xiandao sect knew about it, they would be furious. However, thinking that Elder Chu was the master of the eldest son of the Jiang family, these elders smiled for no reason, feeling happy, and said with a smile, Jiang Chen really worshipped a good teacher. Chapter 23 Enlightenment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Whoever wakes up from the big dream first will know it all my life. In the Jing Pavilion, put down your books. Thousands of insights also emerged in my heart. I read and recite scriptures every day and try to figure out the profound meanings in them. Although my cultivation is not improving, my inner realm is getting better and better, especially my understanding of various Tao. These scriptures not only cover the art of swordsmanship, but also palm techniques, fingering techniques, magical powers, and partial alchemy techniques. There is a lot of understanding in each of them, and when gathered together, it embraces all rivers. The state of mind is naturally rising steadily. The only thing lacking is cultivation. Inside the Sutra Pavilion, the number of disciples coming in during these days is also increasing day by day. Usually, they borrow 2 scriptures and take them back to read, or read them on the spot and remember them in their hearts. But recently, these disciples don't want to leave when they come to the Sutra Pavilion, as if this is the time. Is home. This made the elders guarding the other floors look helpless. They looked at those who were pretending to read books, but actually wanted to figure out how to get favored by Elder Chu. They also shook their heads and sighed, what a pity. Great time is wasted here. The elders of the Sutra Pavilion don't understand what kind of character Elder Chu is. He likes purity and freedom the most. Even Elder Chu accepted Jiang Chen as his disciple. They found it incredible. As for accepting another disciple, it was really impossible. Shake his head. I also feel it's a pity for these people. Actually, Chu Xun really didn't pay attention to what was going on downstairs. As long as Xiao didn't sneak into the scripture pavilion quietly like Venerable Fatty and Slim, it would be difficult to attract his attention, like now. Read for a while, plus the breakthrough insights from the past few days. Save money in your chest. I also know that I need to combine work with rest and practice in another place. So, he stood up and left lightly, didn't go to the back mountain. Instead, he came to the river bank. Once upon a time, this was an inconspicuous small river, flowing and spreading in the mountains behind the sect. Who would have thought that the sword intention of a big river passing by me would merge into it, and it would turn into a holy land of swordsmanship? Many disciples who practice swordsmanship are obsessed with sitting in front of the river, comprehending the supreme meaning. There are 2 major inheritances. One is the sword intention from Elder Jiang, and the other is Chu Xun's sword intention of the river. These 2 are at the top, and the rest are details. Now when I came to a small rock, I looked at the disciples sitting cross-legged on both sides of the river to practice, and a slight smile appeared on my lips. It was a good deed for the disciples to gain something for themselves. Witnessing this rushing river, which was a small river with a width of more than 10 feet, transformed into a mighty river, rushing straight down, I felt more and more emotional in my heart. Close your eyes. There was chaotic sword intent surrounding him. This comes from each sword cultivator, or sharp, or domineering, or low, or sad. Everyone understands the way of swordsmanship differently, all kinds of things, such as thousands of scenes, unpredictable. Kendo. Chu Xun murmured softly, I also thought silently in my heart, one chance for enlightenment. Buzz. The host still has one more chance for enlightenment. Use or not? Yes, Chu Xun nodded lightly. When he read 500 volumes, he was rewarded with 3 things, the Taishen sword, the 8 desolate palms, and a chance for epiphany. He had experienced the first 2, but only this epiphany has remained, and it feels like it even now. It's time to use it. Dai Jiani also practiced for many days. If you want to break through, you need an opportunity, otherwise it will be extremely difficult, and this opportunity for epiphany is chance. With use, the sword intent around him became clear in an instant. Earlier, if he could sense the sword intent around him, it was full of all kinds of confusion. Now, it is the pure and pure sword intent that lingers in his heart. Stretch your palms, there was a breeze blowing, it's like the blow of the sword. Close your eyes, but what appeared in the sea of emptiness was not the sword, but a small flower that appeared. Just when Chu Xun frowned, the small flower bloomed in his heart, its petals swaying, filled with fragrance. In turn, it turned into a grass again, and the stubborn existence in the nothingness. Even if the surrounding environment became harsh again, it still held its head high and never gave in. It turned into another drop of water, and with the surge, it evolved into a river, then into a river, then into an ocean, and finally turned into ice, turned into rising mist, then change again. The roads are connected, everything is integrated into it. Kendo is also a part of it. Immerse yourself in the period. He was obsessed. This kind of epiphany is completely different from what you imagined. It's like a teacher teaching you how to go and where to go, instead of wandering alone in the darkness and opening up a path. An epiphany is like pointing out and opening up a clear path. Ask about the way forward, and a mysterious aura gradually filled the whole body. The first one was the person who approached Chu Xun. They were trying to understand the way of swordsmanship. Suddenly, thoughts are clear. The place where he had been stuck earlier suddenly broke, the sword intent suddenly soared. As soon as he wanted to find out where the source came from, his consciousness gradually became addicted to the enlightenment environment. As he sank, he soon gave up exploring and concentrated on understanding the way of the sword. This scope is also constantly expanding, 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet, not long after, there was no other sound except the rushing river. Everyone fell into enlightenment, but they didn't know why they started. They just tried their best to seize every opportunity and try their best to understand, so that people who were used to hearing whether there was a burst of sword intent coming from the river could not help but look sideways frequently, wondering, why is the river so quiet today? Maybe everyone went to the Sutra Library. I heard that it's crowded there recently. People who really want to borrow scriptures are blocked outside. That he who was practicing didn't know all this. He not only realized the sword way in his sudden enlightenment, but also spread a mysterious enlightenment field, covering this place, so that nearby disciples also benefited. Day sword intent. One step further, spitting out a turbid breath, Chu Xun's closed eyes slowly opened. Earlier, the practice of the 8 desolate palms once suppressed the day sword intent, causing him to kill Zhao Huangqiao with one palm. Today, with the use of the sudden enlightenment opportunity, the day sword intent made rapid progress, once again suppressing the 8 desolate palms and becoming the strongest trump card. Nodding with satisfaction, then he opened his eyes, seeing the disciples who had sudden enlightenment. He was stunned. Enlightenment. So many people. In just a moment, with a flicker of his eyes, he realized the reason. The aftermath of his enlightenment in the human emperor realm was indeed enough for these disciples to have a great enlightenment. He also restrained the idea of displaying his sword intent here. As he withdrew and left, disappeared here. Not long after he left, riverside, bo. Clear and bright sword energy rushed straight into the sky. Even the elders in the sect were stunned, looking at the direction of the sword river with their eyes wide open, muttering, "What happened?" Usually, it takes 3 to 5 days to see a sudden enlightenment, to understand their own swordsmanship, but today, it's like mushrooms after rain, one after another. Chapter 24. Am I that weak? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Things along the river are destined to become suspense. Recently, he is also very popular within the sect, provoking hot debate. As a result, there were far fewer people in the Sutra Pavilion, the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion. Li Yaoqi's face was full of joy when he came this time, and his eyes were filled with smiles when he saw the old Taoist who was reading a book. "What is it that makes you so happy?" Chu Xun also joked with a smile. "No, I was very angry when I saw that evil man trying to attack you, but I was very happy when I saw him slapped to death by you." The little girl was really happy. Chu Xun had never seen her before these days. Such a bright and happy smile. In fact, in Li Yaoqi's heart, apart from the dead Uncle Fu, Chu Xun's status in his heart has continued to soar, and now faintly surpasses the father whom he rarely met, and he is therefore nervous and worried about his safety. When the red-haired old man came to Donglin Sect with murderous intent, she thought that what happened to Uncle Fu in the past was about to happen, and she was on the verge of collapse and despair. Fortunately, the turnaround afterwards was different from what she imagined. Looking at the happy little girl, Chu Xun also shook his head and said, "I didn't just slap him to death, I also used all my strength. Besides, don't you also know that palm technique?" Li Yaoqi nodded like a little chicken, with desolation spreading all over his body, and said, "I will be as strong as you in the future, and then I will protect you." Chu Xun smiled dumbly, but saw the seriousness in the little girl's eyes, and couldn't help but silently said in his heart, "This little girl may regard himself as her relative." But a sudden change also caught Chu Xun's attention. All I could see was that the desolation on Li Yaoqi was swallowing up the spiritual energy around him. Chu Xun was surprised. The 8 desolate palms had the ability to wither, but they did not have the ability to swallow the surrounding spiritual energy for their own use. He couldn't help but take 2 steps forward, and briefly groped around the little girl's body a few times, feeling the vague suction. "Looks weird." There was also relief in my heart. No wonder this little girl's spiritual creation could take away the fate of the protagonist of destiny. This inherent devouring physique, coupled with this desolate power, is simply heaven-defying. I have to sigh, it was my unintentional act in the past. What kind of big devil is going to be cultivated? He silently looked at Li Yaoqi's luck. Name, Li Yaoqi. Age, 4 years old. Cultivation, body refining realm. Luck, purple and black, destined villain. However, under the purple-black color of Li Yaoqi at this time, there was a faint black lotus condensed. Although it was illusory, it still looked like Xianxia. You must know that Xianxia stepped on the destiny several times with his own help. The protagonist has just condensed into the black lotus shadow, and how old is this little girl? If she waits until she reaches adulthood and her luck skyrockets, won't she be a proper destiny villain? The corners of the mouth are frivolous, with a bit of color. Li Yaoqi didn't notice this, but said nervously, "But I also heard that although you stole the limelight, you also caused a lot of trouble. If Donglin Sect is not in peace, you will take me away soon." Chu Xun nodded. This was also expected. He killed a strong man from the immortal Tao sect. The opponent's delay in making a move must be because he was preparing for a big move and preparing a big plan. But he didn't care. The soldiers came to cover up the water and the earth. With the newly mastered Day sword intention, there are not many people in the human emperor realm who can kill him. Even if they can't defeat him, it's still more than enough. Besides, as long as he doesn't go down the mountain, there is no danger. How about? Li Yaoqi pursed his lips and whispered, "How about you come with me? I'll ask my father to step in and no one will dare to touch you." Chu Xun looked at the little girl happily, touched her little head, and said with a smile, "This is what you want to say." Li Yaoqi lowered his head, he pinched his fingers nervously. Chu Xun also smiled and shook his head, but the admiration in his eyes became stronger. Considering the relationship between the little girl and his father, being able to say this shows that he is already very important in her heart. But he also said, "Although my cultivation is not high, but the Donglin Sect treats me well, and this happened because of me. How can I leave like this? Furthermore, just because your cultivation level is low doesn't mean you can be bullied by others. If someone comes, cats and dogs can still be easily handled." Li Yaoqi's eyes were filled with disappointment, but he nodded heavily. "Okay, I'll watch you beat them up when they come." "Not leaving?" Chu Xun teased with a smile. "I'm not leaving." Li Yaoqi's expression was full of determination. This made Chu Xun stunned. but his expression became serious. He knew that the little guy was afraid that Uncle Fu would happen to him again after she left, so he had to watch over her here. If he had to, he would beg his mother desperately. He smiled and rubbed her head, and said, "Listen to your mother, don't show off, and tell me before you leave, and I will give you a gift then." Gift? Li Yaoqi's eyes flashed. No one had ever given her a gift in her entire life. She and Uncle Fu lived together in a remote city. No one cared about the old and weak couple. People in the Orthodox even looked down upon her as a wild child. They only saw her. "I have received gifts from other people's children, but I have never accepted them, and my eyes are filled with anticipation." "All right. Go back first. Grandpa Chu still wants to practice." Chu Xun said with a smile. Li Yaoqi nodded, waved his hand and said, "Goodbye, Grandpa Chu, I will definitely hold on until you beat them up." That the little girl just walked away. Chu Xun hasn't picked up the book yet, someone else came on the back foot. This made Chu Xun quite helpless. He wanted to say, "It's not that no one can come in easily on the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion. Why is it that one person has just left and another one has come?" Master, not Xianxia, who was handsome and as handsome as jade, came to the 8th floor. When he looked at Chu Xun, the respect in his eyes was different from usual. Before, it was just respect for his cultivation and his master, but now he looked at Chu Xun a little bit. "Ask about being a father." During the past few days of practice, every time I close my eyes, I can think of Zhao Huangqiao's decisive and fierce fighting, as well as the deepest fear in my heart, and Elder Chu's gentle smile, which directly disintegrates the deepest fear in my heart. That was something I had only experienced with my father. No matter what kind of crisis he was in, as long as his father was there, nothing would happen. The peace of mind and relaxation in the secret gave him unprecedented trust and respect. Chu Xun nodded gently. My father also heard about this and was worried that the immortal sect would come to retaliate, so he planned to send a clan elder to take charge of the Donglin sect so that he would be taken care of in case anything happened. Xianxia said. The corners of Chu Xun's mouth twitched slightly. I thought, am I not the one who destroyed Zhao Huangqiao with one palm? It's not that he was slandering. Li Yaoqi had just come and pointed out that Donglin zone was too weak and wanted him to follow her. Xianxia came again and asked someone with the Jiang family's background to ensure safety. It's because Donglin sect is too weak, or is he too insignificant? Abdominal slander is abdominal slander, he still said softly. Xianxia, as a disciple of Donglin Holy Land, you need to know something. This ancient power that has been inherited for 3,000 years has far deeper foundations than you imagined. Xianxia was awe-inspiring. My heart gradually woke up. What Master said must have a profound meaning. Could it be said that the sleeping saint is not dead? Seeing the teacher's gentle and relaxed eyes, I felt more and more confident. Chu Xun didn't know what he was thinking. He didn't know whether the saint of Donglin sect was dead or not, but the formation of Donglin sect was real, and he would only be defeated when others came. Buzz, a simple Taishan sword is suspended in the pavilion. Unremarkable, don't show off your edge. Take this sword. Since it was taken by you, there is no reason for me to occupy it as a master. Chu Xun said gently and gently. He also vaguely felt that he would have to read 1,000 volumes and there would be a better reward, and this sword, although it is not bad, as a teacher, there is no need to occupy the weapons of the disciples. Master. Xianxia suddenly became anxious. If you accept it, accept it. This sword is gentle, and you can control it with your cultivation level. It is enough to double your combat power. As far as the teacher is concerned, there will be a better choice, and you don't have to be obsessed with this sword. Chu asked. Okay. Xianxia didn't dare to disobey the master. He thought in his heart that if the teacher refused, he might have something better. After receiving the sword, he cupped his hand and said, Then disciple, please retire first and won't disturb the teacher's practice. Chu Xun nodded slightly. As the latter left, also check your reading progress. 999 volumes have been read. There is still 1 volume left to complete the task. Soon. Chu Xun murmured softly, not only curious about the 1,000-volume reward, but also vaguely looking forward to the revenge of the immortal Tao sect. If he didn't take action to establish his authority, let alone outsiders, even the two juniors he valued felt that the sect lame. Chapter 25 Declaration of War. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The second day, Chu Xun put down the Human Emperor Sutra in his hand. Close your eyes, listen silently. Ding! Congratulations to the host for reading 1,000 volumes, reward an ivy sword, a talisman, and an investment opportunity. Coming. Chu Xun's eyes were filled with joy. Yesterday, I had a premonition that I was going to read 1,000 volumes and get a good reward. Today, as I finished reading the scripture in my hand, I finally reached the 1,000-volume level and the reward came with it. Ivy sword. Sacred weapon level. Buzz. There was a flash of light in front of him, and a 3-foot green blade filled with emerald green light hung in front of him. It was filled with spirituality, buzzing without anyone controlling it, and flew around Chu Xun. As the thoughts flowed, the ivy sword floated there quietly again, and wisps of green light beams turned into vines and wrapped around the sword, which was 2 levels higher than the Taixian sword. Ruo Taixian sword is floating there quietly, like a wooden sword, simple and restrained. I don't see how powerful it is. The ivy sword is irresistible at a glance, surrounded by wisps of ivy. The greenery is full of vitality, it makes people feel good, it also carries joy. What a sword! Chu Xun exclaimed in amazement. Although the ivy sword is low-key, it just proves that it is extraordinary. It can be low-key but not despised. A talisman. When he looked at the second item, he was still surprised. It turned out to be a talisman. You must know that talismans are quite scarce in this world, or they are extremely precious things. Not only are they difficult to refine, but only a handful of people can master them. Countable. When this piece of yellow paper fell on the palm of my hand, the related effects also appeared in my mind. Bearer talisman. It is enough to carry the host's full blow, which makes Chu Xun marvel. If he integrates his river sword intention into one of them, it can produce unexpected effects at critical times. Even if it is given to his descendants, it is a good option. Nod with satisfaction. Look at the third one again. Investment opportunity once. This third item is already quite familiar, and its function needs no introduction. With a thought, he gathered all 3 items together, and a slight smile filled the corner of his mouth. These 3 items are urgently needed for him, especially the ivy sword. It is a real holy weapon that can increase one's strength several times and make one become more stable in the human emperor realm. In his heart, he was secretly looking forward to the revenge of the immortal Tao sect. The storm is about to come and the wind is filling the building. The tree wants to be still but the wind doesn't stop. The immortal sect is still making preparations, but the Zhenwu sect cannot sit still. The grievances between the two parties can be traced back to thousands of years ago. They both belong to the oldest Holy Land force in the eastern region. They have robbed each other of disciples and hunted for treasures in secret realms. The grievances accumulated over the past millennium are quite deep. This situation lasted until the rise of the great sage Zhenwu. Since then, there have been 2 poles. The Donglin sect has declined and collapsed, but the Zhenwu sect has flourished, somewhat like a single family. There are 2 reasons why the Zhenwu great sage did not exterminate the Donglin sect. When the Zhenwu great sage rose up, he powerfully defeated Elder Chu and destroyed his Taoist heart. The saint of Donglin sect was very angry. When he wanted to kill the Zhenwu great sage who had not yet risen, he realized that he was extremely talented and too evil. Unable to bear it, he let go, and the latter also remembered this kindness and did not liquidate Donglin sect. Second, the great sage Zhenwu left the eastern territory after breaking through to the half-sage, traveling around and has never returned, so the 2 sides are at peace. Since then, the Zhenwu sect has been suppressing the Donglin sect, and has repeatedly stolen talented young people. This is understandable. Donglin sect also recognized it, but now, as soon as Elder Chu recovered his cultivation, some people in the Zhenwu sect could not sit still. A sword light flew across thousands of miles and arrived in front of the Donglin sect, directly penetrating the void. Buzz. The sword energy approaches the hall. This alarmed the sect leader Xiao Rongyu. The closed eyes opened, and the sword energy burst into pieces in the hall. turning into sword rain to form a line of words, general meaning, invite to fight, swish, swish, swish. Elder Jiang, Elder Wang He. There were also some strong men holding important positions in the sect who rushed to the main hall one after another. They could still see the remaining sword rain and said blankly, the Zhenwu sect's letter of war. Elder Jiang's face turned gloomy. He had been on guard against the immortal Dao sect recently. Who would have thought that the former's letter of challenge had arrived before he came to the Zhenwu sect, and he would make an appointment with Chu Xun in 7 days. He. Thankfully he thought of it. Elder Wang He snorted. Elder Chu has not made any progress in his 60 years of cultivation. He has just broken through the knot in his heart and made a breakthrough. Then Zhao Yong from the Donglin sect shamelessly came to challenge him without even thinking about the possibility. Zhao Yong. Xiao Rongyu frowned slightly when she recited this name. If there were a few people in the Donglin sect that she feared, Zhao Yong was one of them. He was the leader of the Zhenwu sect 60 years ago. He could compete with Chu Xun, had fought for several rounds, and now that a long time had passed, his cultivation level must have been terrifyingly high. At the very least, he is in the 7th realm of the human emperor, maybe even the 8th realm of the human emperor. Zhao Yong wants to avenge his personal revenge, and at the same time interrupt the rise of Donglin sect. Elder Jiang sneered, realizing that Zhao Yong wanted to kill Chu Xun and also break the foundation of Donglin sect. With Elder Chu's attitude, if you are in a state of accumulation and accumulation, as long as you give it a period of time, you will definitely rise, and you may even step into the holy realm. If you kill Chu Xun, doesn't it also break the foundation of Donglin sect? What a beautiful thought. Ignore him. Xiao Rongyu also sneered. If she was given another 10 years, she could single-handedly kill her way into the Zhenwu sect, but now the Donglin sect was in decline, so how could they care about him? She sneered, if you are not afraid of dying under the Donglin sect's formation, let him come. Everyone in the hall nodded. With the protective formation, they were not afraid of the opposite side rushing over. Elder Wang He remembered something and suddenly woke up and said, I will go to find Elder Chu. The matter of the letter of challenge will soon reach his ears. To avoid being provoked, remind him first. Elder Jiang didn't care. He knew that Chu Xun was indifferent and could even sit in the Sutra Pavilion for a decade. Such gossip would not affect him at all. Xiao Rongyu, and the elders who were listening. They all thought so. Everyone knew Elder Chu's temperament. It would be extremely difficult to anger him, but it didn't matter if Elder Wang He went to remind him. Although he would not be provoked, it would be better to take precautions in advance. Xiao Rongyu swept her beautiful eyes over the elders present, and said sternly and coldly, Donglin sect has closed the mountain these days. If Xiao Yong wants to come, let him come. See if he dares to break into the sect. Yes. Yes. The elders stood up, just felt a little aggrieved. One of the 6 great holy places in the East region, the sect was forced to close by one person, and the person had not arrived yet. If this spread out, it would be a shame, but they couldn't beat him. They couldn't force the saint whose life and death were uncertain to come out of seclusion just for a little face. Scripture Library. Although he was rewarded for reading 1,000 volumes, he still didn't give up the scriptures in his hand. Now listening to the reminder of Elder Wang He, Chu Xun's eyes were frequently filled with strange colors and spirits. Zhenwu sect. Zhao Yong. After searching for a long time in his memory, he didn't have any impression of this person, but he didn't care. Instead, he was secretly excited. No matter who dared to come to Donglin sect, it was just right to sacrifice him to establish his prestige. Earlier, I was still worried that the opponent might be too weak to shock me, but now it's fine. A smile on his face, he nodded gently. Elder Wang He also said goodbye and left, but he looked strange and weird when he left. Why did he feel that Elder Chu was very excited when he heard that there was a strong enemy? Illusion. It must be an illusion. Chapter 26. The leaders of the 6 holy places are here. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is it here? I heard it was. Look, someone is already stationed here. The next day, many practitioners came to the riverside outside the Donglin sect's holy land. At first, the people from the Donglin sect didn't pay attention, but as time went by, more and more people gathered. The next day, the third day, the fourth day, Donglin couldn't sit still. Since the sect was closed, the disciples could not get out, so they could only watch from a distance. Seeing so many people gathering outside the Donglin sect, they felt confused, not understanding what was going on. However, Xiao Rongyu and the others knew why these people were here. As their figure flickered, Xiao Rongyu was dressed in a red robe, with a delicate face and a hint of cinnabar between his brows, standing proudly in the void. The figure of Elder Wang he also followed, and they looked down at the front together. His face had lost the relaxation of the previous few days, and he said solemnly, "The Zhenwu sect is going to push us to death. A campaign, the storm is rising, it swept the entire eastern region. I don't know how many casual cultivators and young talents came here after hearing the news." The decisive battle between the human emperor realm was still a showdown between two ancient forces. The topic was too hot, and they all traveled thousands of miles to come. At this time, if Donglin sect continues to refuse to fight, its reputation will be ruined. Not to mention recruiting disciples next year. I am afraid that a group of disciples in the sect will choose to abandon the sect and leave. This is to break the foundation of Donglin sect. Disciples are often the foundation of a sect. If the disciple is gone, no matter how big the sect is, it will fall. Conspiracy. Wang he smiled bitterly and said, he wanted to resist the war, but the Zhenwu sect did not give him a chance to resist the war, and used the power of the entire eastern region to press him. I don't believe that the Donglin sect can't avoid the war. We can't fight. Xiao Rongyu pursed his lips. Donglin sect is too short of time. Both Shi and Elder Chu can rise up as long as they are given a certain amount of time. Now they are completely unable to support this battle. The general trend is compelling, fight even if you don't want to fight. With a faint sigh, Xiao Rongyu and Wang he turned around to look and suddenly expressed surprise. Elder Wang, why are you here? The octogenarian old man walking slowly on crutches had a wrinkled face. He was usually responsible for guarding the Donglin sect's forbidden area. Now he came in person. He looked at the flow of people in front of him with his cloudy eyes and sighed, if I don't come here again, Donglin will be here. Linzong is finished. Xiao Rongyu showed shame. As the leader of the sect, she could not lead the sect to glory. Instead, she fell into embarrassment. As the leader, she cannot escape the blame. I don't blame you. Elder Wang shook his head gently. This is a mess. Donglin sect has weakened to this point. Whoever takes over as the head will be defeated. Looking at the history, this is also the most difficult time. Xiao Rongyu can maintain such a huge. It has not been easy for the sect to operate until now. We really want a decisive battle. 7 days later. Let me try. The old man's back was hunched and his tone was slow. Xiao Rongyu was moved by this and wanted to dissuade Pingji from the situation at this time. He said silently, "Are you sure?" Elder Wang shook his head slightly. He was not at all sure about that battle. Zhao Yongnian was at the peak of his strength, but he had one foot in the coffin. In a real fight, even if both sides were injured, he would lose because he had to continue to sit in power. The forbidden area is the truly dangerous place. And he was even more afraid that Zhao Yong would break through the 8th realm of the human emperor. If so, no chance of winning. Only one life can be saved. Delay some time for the younger generation. Xiao Rongyu understood, so he remained silent. The wind blew, it's cool, just like the mood of several people, successively. As the battle day approaches, it's not just these casual cultivators. Even those forces second only to the 6 holy lands also arrived. Countless small sects, even secular dynasties established in remote places in the eastern region, all rushed over to witness this battle, but as the time came closer, some people also made different voices. There were 3 or 5 groups of practitioners sitting cross-legged together. One of them said, I heard some rumors that the Donglin sect did not dare to fight. It's very possible that this battle won't happen. I've heard about it too, but do you believe this rumor? What kind of force is Donglin Holy Land? It has dominated the eastern territory for 3,000 years and is the oldest force. If defeat is possible, do you think it is possible for it to not even dare to fight? The young man sitting cross-legged opposite took a sip of wine and snorted disdainfully. One of the cultivators frowned and said, "I thought so too earlier, but look, none of them have come to the 6 holy places in the eastern region so far." Several young people glanced around, his eyes narrowed slightly, the smile also solidified. They found that not only did no one come to the 6 holy lands, but no one even came from the ancient families of the Jiang family and the Nangong family. A hint of ominous premonition filled my mind. Could it be, the rumors are true? A trip in vain. Gulong. Just as a cold sweat broke out on his forehead, suddenly, they saw a chirping sound under the night sky, which resounded through the clouds and made all the practitioners look up in unison. They saw a fiery red phoenix soaring in the sky for 9 days, swooping down from the clouds. The red rays of light burst into flames, and a trace of the ferocious beast's domineering power spread, causing the practitioners below to all look up in shock. All I could see was a middle-aged man in purple robes standing on top of the phoenix's head, silently looking down. The powerful pressure permeating his body horrified those practitioners, and even those in the venerable realm felt suffocated. The master of Xianxia sect, Lu Nantian, come in person. A moment, the rumors that were born today were shattered. Just as people were immersed in shock, suddenly, a large sun was seen falling from the sky, and the golden light that spread even covered the sunset. As the light faded, a graceful and peerless woman was quietly suspended in the void. Goddess Sect, Chu Yaoyao. In an instant, the world was filled with a strong and domineering aura. One after another, the world's powerful people came. The master of the Xianxia sect came in person. The master of the Xiandao sect came in person. The master of the Tianji sect came in person. The ancient family, the head of the Jiang family came in person. The ancient family, the head of the Nangong family came in person. The dazzling light bloomed and descended here, causing a strong shock, making everyone waiting their blood spurt, and the blood in their bodies burned for no reason. Chapter 27, Fight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Donglin sect mountaintop, Xiao Rongyu, dressed in red, felt the pressure in her heart increase every time she felt a powerful breath coming. With the arrival of the last breath, she breathed half a beat slower, frowning slightly, counting carefully. The leaders of various forces in the eastern region came one after another. They forced the situation. They forced the Donglin sect to fight. In the void, Jiang Zhinshan, the head of the Jiang family, also frowned slightly. He had a premonition that this war would cause a lot of waves. He didn't expect it to be hyped to such an extent. It would be fine if it was just secular forces and ordinary practitioners, but even the leaders of these major forces came. It seems that they are very afraid of Elder Chu. It seems that everyone is very idle. The patriarch of the Nangong family looked around and found that few people who should come had arrived. This scene has not happened in the eastern region for 20 years. The last time the leaders of various forces came in person was because a saint's secret realm was born, which was suspected to have a higher level of inheritance. However, seeing that no one had the desire to talk, they quietly closed their eyes after landing, conserving their energy. The patriarch of the Nangong clan pursed his lips slightly, glanced at the direction of the Donglin sect, and was curious about how to deal with it tomorrow. Night fell, the moonlight shone through the clouds, and the stars sparkled in the sky, and the waiting practitioners were also sleepless. The arrival of powerful human emperors was too shocking to the soul, so much so that now looking at those immortal-like figures, they all showed amazement and envy, secretly wondering when they could achieve such an achievement. Even those who liked to brag closed their mouths under the influence of this momentum, waiting for the passage of time obediently, looking forward to the arrival of tomorrow. When the sky was white, the purple glow shone across the miles, and the Xianxia sect leader Lu Nantian, who was closing his eyes, opened his dark and sharp eyes, looked into the distance, and whispered, "Here it comes." Not only him, Goddess Palace Master Chu Yaoyao. Jiang Zhinshan, the patriarch of the Jiang family, the leader of the Tianji sect. These powerful human emperor realms opened their eyes one after another and looked into the distance. They saw a figure in the void. He seemed to appear out of thin air, but he stood there quietly. This figure did not release any breath. The wind blew his robe and rolled up his black hair, revealing his face. It was a very delicate and handsome face, handsome, evil, the reason for this strange feeling was his evil eyes and the arch smile at the corner of his mouth, which destroyed the beauty of this quietness and looked very evil. Zhao Yong of the Zhenwu sect, we're here. Someone's low murmur made those who were still sleeping with their eyes closed open their eyes and look at the rather cynical figure. The first thing that rose in their hearts was not fear, but a long sigh. The atmosphere last night was too depressing, which made those who liked to talk feel suffocated. Now they can finally breathe a sigh of relief. The people from the Zhenwu Holy Land have arrived. Where is the Donglin Holy Land? Buzz. Just as people turned their heads to look, they were shocked to find that Zhao Yong of Zhenwu sect took another step forward and came to the Donglin sect 10 miles away. His evil eyes were full of evil, and terrible air currents rolled up around his body, condensing into a collapsed black hole behind him. As he raised his slender and clean right hand, the vortex of the palm sword spread into a black hole, the deepest part of which collapsed and continuously released arcs, while the outer periphery was a rotating storm. Bang! Raised his hand and slapped, transformed into a terrible palm print, pressed towards the Donglin sect. Gulong. Everyone's heartbeats followed, even Chu Yaoyao, the leader of the goddess sect, was no exception. Her beautiful face showed emotion. She had never thought that Zhao Yong would be so overbearing. The eyelids of the leader of the Tianji sect also jumped suddenly. He had never thought of this situation. Things had come to this point and someone from the Donglin sect would definitely fight. It was just a matter of a little later. Who would have thought that Zhao Yong would be so arrogant and did not take the Donglin sect into consideration at all? He also secretly said, "It seems that Zhao Yong's killing intention towards Chu Xun is not a little bit." Jiang family head Jiang Zhenshan also had dark pupils. He came here this time to see if he could mediate and make things develop in a good direction as much as possible. Zhao Yong's move clearly exposed his true intentions. This matter would not be so easy to settle. Without Chu Xun's explanation, I am afraid that the Donglin sect would have a hard time. Oh my God! So fierce. It's worth coming. As for those independent cultivators or dignitaries from secular dynasties, they were all amazed when they saw the domineering appearance. The excitement in their faces was obvious, and they were looking forward to the upcoming battle. Boom! Before the palm print landed over the Donglin sect, a golden light shield lit up, allowing the latter to land. The devastating palm print did not shake the formation at all. Is this the Donglin sect's formation? It's too strong. There are young geniuses who are amazed at this scene, full of admiration. They were once hesitant in the journey of apprenticeship in the 6 holy places, and gradually leaned towards Donglin sect. There are also top forces in the 6 holy places. They stared with dim eyes and secretly sighed in their hearts. The difference between them and these holy places is not only a saint, but also such a foundation. In Donglin sect, whether it is Wang He, Xiao Rongyu, or even Elder Jiang, they all showed mild anger. Did Zhao Yong regard Donglin Holy Land as a small sect? He wanted to suppress it easily by himself. He was too brave. Humph! In the forbidden area of the back mountain, Elder Wang, who had arranged the future, had turbid eyes full of anger. That Zhao Yong was too domineering. He really went too far and bullied him because there was no one in the Donglin sect. There was anger on his face, and he no longer hesitated to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth crazily. His dry skin gradually became full. This was to adjust his own state to the peak and go to fight. However, in the Sutra Library, Chu Xun, who was reading the scriptures, had a happy look in his eyes. He put down the book in his hand. He could see the movement outside through the window. He also smiled and murmured, "Finally here." Waited for 7 days, he was also recuperating. Buzz. The Qingting sword trembled, flying around his side. Chu Xun smiled slightly, put away the flying sword, and said with a smile, "You are my trump card. I don't know if Zhao Yong is worthy of me using the holy weapon." What a big noise! Xiao Rongyu and others also looked towards the back mountain. Elder Wang was ready to return to the peak. He absorbed too much spiritual energy and caused the strange phenomenon. But when they thought that Elder Wang was so old, it was already difficult to suppress the forbidden area. He had to come out to solve such troubles, and they couldn't help but feel ashamed. Elder Jiang was the same, turning his head silently, suddenly saw, hearing the roar of the sect. Several people turned their heads blankly. They saw a figure walking out of the Sutra Pavilion and slowly walking towards the outside of the sect. This made them dumbfounded and stood there dumbfounded. What was that just now? Elder Chu Xun. Boom. At the moment of being stunned, Xiao Rongyu's face suddenly changed, and he couldn't help but said angrily, Wang He, didn't I ask you to remind Elder Chu not to let him be provoked and impulsive and accept the challenge? Wang He opened his mouth and couldn't utter a word. He had noticed that Chu Xun was not in good condition when he reminded him a few days ago. It was strange, and he couldn't tell where it was. But now it was too late to wake up suddenly. Elder Zhang's scalp was tingling. In his mind, Chu Xun was a wise man with a calm mind. Even the destruction of Donglin Sect might not force him to get angry. He thought that he was more provoked than them. He trembled and said, Is this still the Elder Chu I know? Stop talking. Chase him. Elder Wang, who was trying to recover to his peak in the forbidden area, also suddenly changed color. He didn't have time to recover his cultivation. He turned into a flash of lightning and rushed away. Chapter 28 Confrontation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the same time, Zhao Yong, who was standing outside Donglin Sect, also noticed the strange scene of Donglin Sect. He looked away with his evil eyes, and the corners of his mouth curved up, mocking, Is it possible to fool me with a dying old thing? A wisp of evil permeated his body, turning into a strange red, and behind him, a terrifying phantom of a monster, Tao Wu, was faintly condensed, baring his teeth and showing his fierceness. The Nangong clan leader also looked towards the back mountain of Donglin Sect. The movement of Elder Wang's recovery was so loud that they could hardly ignore it. Although they were surprised, they were relieved and said, It seems that Donglin Sect has been forced into a desperate situation. Even the one who sits in the forbidden area has revived and is about to come out. The leader of Xianxia Sect also sighed, It's a pity. Donglin Sect, one of the 6 holy places and the oldest, will probably fall from the eastern region or even be directly expelled if someone finds out that the saints in the sect have died again. Zhao Yong forced Donglin Sect to be like this, so you can imagine the weak state. Besides, even if Elder Wang in the forbidden area barely blocked Xiao Yong, how to suppress the forbidden area later would be a bigger problem. Shaking his head, he was sighing in his heart, I never thought that the oldest force would have such a disaster. But suddenly, the leader of the Xianxia Sect, the leader of the Zhenwu Sect, and even Zhao Yong froze on the spot, stunned there, looking at the introverted and ordinary old man. If he were in the secular world, no one would think that he was a cultivator. His aura was too introverted, gentle and unhurried. Even if the sect encountered such a catastrophe, he would not change his face and walk slowly in the void. In terms of temperament, the two sides are more than one level apart. A discerning eye can see the strength, but the leader of the Xiandao sect was deeply surprised and let out a long breath. Chu Xun in this state made him more afraid. He was unhurried, not arrogant or impatient. It was clear that he had a great breakthrough in his state of mind. If he was given some time, he would definitely make rapid progress, and it would not be surprising even if he stepped into the holy realm. Fortunately, he encountered a catastrophe and fell here. The pupils of Lu Nantian, the leader of Zhenwu sect, also shrank slightly. Seeing Chu Xun's state, he had only one thought in his mind, late bloomers, accumulated a lot, and 60 years of precipitation will only need a little time to bloom with extremely bright light. What a pity, it's too late. No one will give him more time. He also silently glanced at the direction of Xiandao sect. He was somewhat glad that Zhao Huangchao had caused trouble, otherwise he would not know that Chu Xun had grown to this point. I'm afraid he would be able to dominate the eastern region soon. The appearance of Chu Xun filled the eyes of these top human emperors with different expressions, from the initial shock to the subsequent relaxation. Even Chu Yaoyao, the leader of the goddess sect, was no exception. From the initial surprise to the subsequent relief and relaxation, he could accept Chu Xun's fall, and this coercion. Jiang Zhinshan, the head of the Jiang family, could not sit still when he saw Chu Xun coming out. His face was filled with anxiety. He had never expected that Elder Chu would come out. In his opinion, although this disaster would make Donglin sect lose face and even show a low point in the next few years, as long as Chu Xun calmed down and practiced for a few years to step into the Holy Realm, he would reverse this decline and return to the peak. But who would have thought that Elder Chu would come out? This was totally beyond his expectations. Elder Chu, who was always calm and steady, like a wise man, could not sit still today. He was impatient and wanted to stop. Zhao Yong, the leader of the Xiandao sect, smiled calmly and said, "I heard that the eldest son of the Jiang family made a big fuss when he became a disciple a few days ago. Could it be this one, that the leader of the Zhenwu sect and the leader of the Tianji sect looked over in an instant?" The patriarch of the Nangong clan moved silently. If the head of the Jiang family came to help, he would stop him at the first time. They have already witnessed Chu Xun's mentality and talent. They don't allow such a powerful existence in the East region. The moment Chu Xun walked out of the Sutra Library today was a wrong choice. He would not be given any chance to survive. This old silver coin. The head of the Jiang family cursed in his heart. Not only the head of the Nangong family, but also the other top emperors were moving their positions to put him in a dilemma and not give him any chance to help. Below, those secular dynasties or young geniuses from small forces showed relief. They were previously wondering who the old man was, but now they were relieved after hearing it. They didn't know the name of Chu Xun, but they knew that the eldest son of the Jiang family had made a lot of noise about his apprenticeship a few days ago. Immediately, a young girl's beautiful eyes showed curiosity and asked, "I heard that the eldest son of the Jiang family has amazing talent. He has entered the realm of the venerable at a young age. His teacher should be very powerful, right?" "Of course. Jiang Chen is so talented. How can the teacher be bad?" Many young girls who have witnessed Jiang Chen's grace have shown their infatuation and unconditional admiration for him, which makes them more curious about Chu Xun. Chu Xun walked out of the Sutra Library slowly. Seeing the big scene outside and Zhao Yong's momentum, he looked helpless. He came here to fight, not to show off. Was it necessary to make such a big noise? Swish. 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 But just as Chu Xun came, several streams of light descended from behind him. Each of them had a terrible aura. They were Xiao Rongyu, Wang He, Elder Jiang, and Elder Wang, who was in charge of the forbidden area. They came at a very fast speed and did not suppress their aura. As a result, they were like ancient immortals coming from the sky. They were fierce and aggressive, not inferior to the great emperors who descended last night. This made the young geniuses who were watching even more enamored, and they said infatuatedly, "This is too cool. I heard earlier that Donglin sect was dying and was the weakest among the 6 holy lands. Now it seems that he is the weakest. He is obviously jealous, okay?" 5 human emperors appeared all of a sudden. "Oh my god, it's so awesome." "Humph, I think so. These forces are doing everything they can to compete for disciples. They can even use such obscene rumors. Look down on them." However, the human emperors of Donglin sect were extremely nervous. Chu Xun had their confidence and future in mind, so how could they put themselves in danger? Elder Wang, who was in the forbidden area, even scolded angrily, "What nonsense, Elder Chu, return to the sect quickly." As long as they enter the sect, no matter how big things happen outside, they will not be affected inside. No one can break the Donglin sect's formation unless the saint comes. They are still relieved. Ha! With a smile on his lips, Chu Xun looked at the others and said, "Why are you here?" "This matter started and ended because of me. I have been holding it back for a while in the Sutra Pavilion, but I want to try what it's like outside." Elder Jiang had cold sweat on his forehead, wondering if he could try this blindly, and wanted to dissuade him, but looking at Elder Chu's calm and relaxed expression, he felt a burst of recognition in his heart, and he actually thought, maybe it would be okay to give it a try. This thought shocked him. Elder Chu has a noble status, so how can he act like this? Elder Chu. It doesn't matter, I'll give it a try first. You can hold the battle for me. If you can't hold it in the end, you can go up again. Chu Xun turned his back to a few people and said calmly. This was also what he was thinking. If he really is not his opponent, he won't show off his strength. If the sky falls, there is a tall guy on the top, and it won't be his turn no matter what. Elder Wang, who was sitting in the forbidden area, moved his lips and sighed softly. That's all, since Elder Chu is willing to take action, let me hold the line. Thinking that Elder Chu had destroyed Zhao Huangqiao with one palm a few days ago, and that Chu Xun still had a turbulent river sword intention. Even if he lost to Zhao Yong, it was more than enough to fight with him for a few rounds, so he let him take action. Xiao Rongyu's delicate and pretty face was full of heart, and her little face was flushed with nervousness. If the Elder Wang of the forbidden area hadn't promised, she wouldn't have allowed anything. Now she can only watch from behind, her bare hands even more ready to go. Always ready to assist. Chapter 29 I Have a Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhao Yong was full of mockery, and a cyan finger shadow burst out with a snap of his fingers. The speed along the way was so fast that the air flow surged in both directions. Try me, are you worthy? Zhao Yong said sarcastically. If Chu Xun had not broken his Taoist heart back then, he would have been a little afraid, but now he dares to be so crazy. The time to let him know what belongs to you has passed. Boom! Not only that, Zhao Yong stretched out his palm and saw that the void around Chu Xun suddenly collapsed, and a huge palm imprisoned him in it, and along with the green finger, released a killing blow. How scary! Those dignitaries from the secular dynasty all had their eyelids twitching wildly. They looked at this scene in shock. They felt that Zhao Yong was too strong and wanted to kill Chu Xun even though he was not moving from a distance. How to deal with it? Some people were also worried about Chu Xun. The disciples of Donglin Sect were also watching from a distance, their nervous hearts jumping into their throats, for fear that Chu Xun would not be able to stop him. Buzz! Golden light spread out from Chu Xun's body and turned into a ball of light about 3 feet away. Neither his fingers nor his huge empty palm could shake this protective shield. Call! Xiao Rongyu of Donglin Sect took a long breath and secretly said, back then, Elder Chu's defensive golden light shield was excellent, but I didn't expect that it would still be outstanding after so long. There was no joy on Elder Zhang's face, because this defense back then was Elder Chu's unique skill, but now he was forced out just after he took action. You must know that Zhao Yong did it casually and did not use other means. Lu Nantian, the leader of the Xianxia sect, nodded lightly and was very satisfied with the effect of this attack. It was obviously unrealistic to kill Chu Xun at will. Even if the Xianxia great sage tried his best to defeat him, now if being killed casually is not worthy of their massive mobilization, the master of the Xianxia sect frowned slightly and said silently, although Zhao Yong has not broken through the 8th realm of the human emperor, he is only one step away. If he kills Chu Xun in this battle and breaks the demonic barrier, he will definitely be able to break through the human emperor. In the 8th emperor realm, doesn't Xianxia sect have another powerful practitioner? The leader of Tianji sect, the leader of the Goddess Palace, the leader of the Xinqing sect, the head of the Jiang family, the head of the Nangong clan, these people had different reactions when they saw this scene. Most of them were relaxed and contented. However, if they could force out Elder Chu's defensive skills with a casual move, there would be no more surprises in this battle. Elder Jiang, Wang He, Xiao Rongyu, Elder Wang who guards the forbidden area, there was anxiety on the faces of these people. Although Zhao Yong's state had not broken through the 8th realm of the human emperor, his powerful combat power was probably not inferior to those of the 8th realm. Elder Chu was hanging. That's it. Zhao Yong playfully snorted, feeling more and more disappointed in his heart. Chu Xun has always been a demonic barrier in his heart over the years. He thought he had no chance to break it again, but he never expected that Chu Xun would break through and return to the top. This made him see he had hoped for it, but the current fight disappointed him. He was too weak. He could just force Chu Xun to use his special skills with just one palm and one finger. How could he fight next? Boring, lost, sad, there are all kinds of emotions, it suddenly filled my heart. Very complicated, it was like he had been looking forward to a decisive battle for so many years, but when it came to a head-to-head confrontation, he found that the opponent was ridiculously weak and not on the same level at all. He was so boring that he also lost the idea of having fun, and said boringly, "Let's end it." Chu Xun also nodded slightly. Although he didn't take action just now, he could see that the opponent's strength was much weaker than he thought, and it was not worth using the ivy sword. His eyes slowly moved to the direction of the back mountain of Donglin Sect, and he also saw the expectant eyes of countless disciples of Donglin Sect. He said softly and peacefully, "I left a sword intention in the back mountain, which melted into the river. Today I will use this to fight." Wow! The sword cultivators in the sect immediately widened their eyes, and their pretty faces instantly became rosy. They had already speculated that this sword intention might have come from the elders of the Tibetan Scripture Pavilion. Now that it was acknowledged by Chu Xun personally, they were naturally happy, especially thinking of what Chu Xun said. He was both excited and a little confused. Wow! The most extraordinary sword intent suddenly appeared in the boiling river, which was mottled and messy. It was the result of a disciple of Donglin Sect sword cultivating who had successfully comprehended by the river and left a copy of his own experience submerged in the river. Following Chu Xun's call, the entire river was filled with sword energy. The rushing river was no longer peaceful, but instead turned into a restless sword dragon, as if countless sword spirits were imprisoned. Sword intent. In Chu Xun's thoughts, a boiling river galloped from the mountain behind the sect and crossed into the sky, shocking those who were watching the battle. How could it be done like this, directly summoning a sword river? Rumble. Rivers surge and sword intent surges. The expressions of the several sect leaders who had been unmoved earlier suddenly became serious, and they stared at the boiling river and said, "What a strong sword intent." Mottled, messy, disordered, the leader of the goddess sect frowned. She felt all kinds of violent sword intent at that moment. It was not the attribute of one person, but more like the sword intent of thousands of people fused together. Such a river may have miraculous effects, and it can be defeated. Zhao Yong is a bit wishful thinking, however. The next moment her expression froze on her face, and her hairs stood on end. Come, the old man standing in the void was still gentle and calm, not anxious or impatient. He raised his hand to guide the sword intent of the river in his hand and melted it into the river. In an instant, the river boiled, and drops of water rolled and surged. The originally chaotic river suddenly burst into a murderous aura, and the sword intent rushed straight into the sky, which was horrifying even at a distance of thousands of miles. This. Elder Zhang's scalp was numb, staring at the river. He knew that Elder Chu's sword intent of the river was superb, but he didn't expect it to be so terrifying. "I don't know if you can take this sword." Chu Xun looked at Zhao Yong, and chopped it down while speaking. In just an instant, the river condensed into a boiling giant sword, like a huge sword dragon. Rumble. The raging river water also shocked the people watching the battle below. Who would have thought that there would be such a move? A cultivator in the king realm was horrified. He stared at the waves in the giant sword river and took a breath of cold air and said, "Every drop of water in it can easily kill the king realm." It's terrible. The young genius who didn't know how powerful this sword was completely shocked. You know, the king realm can already establish a dynasty in the east region and proclaim himself the emperor, but such an existence can't even stop a drop of water in it. I feel that every surging wave combined together can easily kill the venerable realm. There was also a strong man from a strong force in the east region. This caused a burst of exclamation. You know, the king realm is an unattainable figure in the eyes of ordinary people, and the venerable is even more unimaginable. But now, the huge river sword dragon can kill any wave at will. How powerful is this sword? Looking around, there are countless surging waves. If not 100,000, there must be 80,000. Terrible. Whether it was the geniuses in the secular world or the practitioners from the eastern region, they all showed extreme shock. They looked at the ordinary old man with shock in their hearts. It was hard to imagine that he could be so strong. Chapter 30 Formation Killing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The leader of the Tianji sect also stared at the mighty Xianxia sword dragon coming in with numbness. As a strong man at the peak of the human emperor realm, he could feel it more clearly. The thousands of sword intentions contained in it were already terrifying, and with the fusion of Chu Xun's sword intention of the river, the edge of this river was completely stimulated, and the sharpness revealed in an instant was probably as sharp as the sky, thousands of waves, billions of water drops, a great gathering of people, condensed into a river stegosaurus. Facing this sword dragon, Zhao Yong clearly felt the pressure in the sword river. It was not a sword that belonged to one person, but a finished product that belonged to thousands of disciples of Donglin Holy Land who had practiced for many days. You cheated. Zhao Yong gritted his teeth. He could clearly feel that Chu Xun's sword intention was not that strong at all. It was the thousands of sword elephants in the sword river that supported this sword, thus reaching a level that was not his. The height of Chu Xun's sword was an advantage, but the matter has come to this point, and it is useless to say anything. Drops of water, waves, and rivers combined to form a giant sword of water waves, with no end in length and width, and it cut straight down. True martial law. Zhao Yong is not a waste, he has something unique about being able to practice to this realm. Wisps of golden light shine, turning into blazing flames, burning fiercely, accompanied by the sound of the phoenix. A huge divine bird appears, the three-legged sun bird golden crow. A phoenix cry resounded through the sky, and the blazing temperature swept across it instantly. Boom! In an instant, the whole world turned into a sea of fire and swept away. The water droplets in the river evaporated at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into clouds and mist that filled the sky and the earth. Gulong, that the spectators around were even more shocked to see this scene. They thought that the old man's river sword power had shocked the world, but they didn't expect that the appearance of Zhao Yong's divine bird, the three-legged golden crow, was even more shocking, and part of it evaporated directly. Rivers. Snort. Chu Xun didn't take it seriously. He stared at him and slashed lightly with his palm from a distance. The huge water-flowing giant sword also slashed down with it. Even though the three-legged golden crow became more domineering, it was still difficult to resist, and his neck was cut off directly. Whoops! The three-legged divine bird fell down and executed him, forced by wisps of death breath. Zhao Yong's conceited heart suddenly trembled. He actually felt the breath of death under this sword. What frightened him was more anger and unwilling roar. In the early years, he admits that he can't beat Chu Xun, but now he has clearly been disabled and wasted for 60 years, so why can't he beat him? He was unwilling to give in. Will Zhao Yong be suppressed for the rest of his life? His eyes were filled with intense heat and flames, the fire in his chest was rising, and the breath of death was getting closer and closer. But when the giant sword was about to fall, the breath that had been held back to the extreme exploded. Boom! The body's cultivation, a brazen breakthrough, the 8 realms of the human emperor, a more powerful aura filled the air and swept into the field. Lu Nantian, the leader of the Zhenwu sect who was originally preparing to help, was startled and immediately showed joy. Zhao Yong's breakthrough indicated that no matter what the outcome, the Zhenwu sect had made a lot of money. True martial law. After the breakthrough, the coldness in Zhao Yong's eyes became even stronger, and his murderous intention towards Chu Xun reached the extreme in an instant. His pupils stared coldly, and the powerful aura directly filled his body and resonated with the heaven and earth, summoning a terrifying figure, which was in harmony with his body. He was gathering in front of him, and he was staring at it continuously. In just a moment, a Dharma image wearing a crown on his head and swallowing thousands of miles of anger came up. He couldn't see his face clearly, and could only see the heart palpitations and fear in his eyes that were indifferent to eternity. With this Dharma, his combat power would definitely soar. Boom! Clap your hands. Zhao Yong's ferocious face was full of murderous intent. At this moment, he was like a god, unstoppable, protected by his true martial arts, and fearless. He said coldly, Chu Xun, I really want to thank you for the pressure you put on me. That if it weren't for Chu Xun, how could he break through at the critical moment? For thanks, naturally, he must be killed, to avoid future troubles. It actually broke through. Chu Xun, who was standing there, was surprised in his eyes, but looking at Zhao Yong, whose aura was soaring and rising, he still shook his head slowly and said, "It's still a little bit worse," that his sword was fused with De sword intention, and De sword intent was forced to Xiaoqing level by using a martial arts deduction card. The sword intention in it was not visible on the surface. Boom! That the instant collision between Jinwu Dharma Prime's giant palm and Taodao's river sword intent shocked everyone as if their ears were ringing, and an extremely powerful ripple rippled across the sky. Quick push! Xiao Rongyu and others in the human emperor realm immediately retreated, and the rest of the powerful people were no exception. When they retreated, the most powerful human emperors did not forget to take away a group of practitioners who were close by. Puff! But there were still people who failed to retreat immediately. They were affected by the ripples, and the big mouthfuls of blood made the hearts of those watching the battle in the distance tremble, because the one who coughed up blood was at the venerable level, and he was still far away. If he was close, wouldn't it turn into something in an instant? Xue Mist was also shocked and said, "How intense should the collision between the two be?" Click, click, click. The Jinwu Dharma appearance was constantly trembling, as if it could not withstand such pressure, and wisps of sword intent from the river invaded the Jinwu Dharma appearance, making the Dharma appearance that was being stared at gradually become illusory, and cracks were also spreading. How can it be? How can it be? How can this be? Zhao Yong's heart trembled. This was clearly his peak. He had even broken through the 8th realm of the human emperor, but he was still no match. This was completely unacceptable to him. Feeling the cracks in his true martial arts, he had a premonition in his heart that it was over. Bang! Sure enough, before he could even hold out for a breath, the Jinwu Dharma image completely exploded, turning into a rain of light and sprinkled across the sky. The pupils of Lu Nantian, the leader of the Jinwu sect, who was watching the battle from afar, shrank and shouted, "You dare!" But it was too late. Puff! A sword slashed down, the boiling river sword swept across Zhao Yong's body, directly chopping him into pieces, leaving no residue. The brilliant fist light came to kill, that was from Lu Nantian, the leader of the Jinwu sect, but Chu Xun didn't even look at him, but just responded calmly, "Why not?"